Hello, my name is Ben Bradford, and this is my informative presentation. I will be covering the year I was born, 1988. I was born on April 26, 1988, in Pontiac, Michigan. 1988 was a very interesting time for the United States and the world at large. For example, terrorism was alive and well in 1988, as it is today. A very pivotal moment occurred on August 11, 1988. As far as terrorism goes, there was a meeting with bin Laden and several other important figures in terrorism, and Al Qaeda was formed. This group was responsible for the 9/11 attacks, and when the group was formed, no one could really predict what would happen. They did have no way of knowing that the 9/11 attacks would culminate from this group. In 1988, as currently, Western culture is a target of terrorism. The Libyan terrorists bombed an airplane in 1988. This was an airplane headed from Europe into New York City. It had 259 people on board. All of them died. 189 of these people were Americans, making it the deadliest terrorist attack on Americans until the 9/11 attacks. The debris field was spread over a large area. Body parts were found for an 81-mile distance. And this was the deadliest attack on Americans until 9/11 occurred. Another interesting fact, the Iraq War ended in 1988. It spanned over 8 years, and 1.5 million people perished in this war. Another event that occurred, as far as conflict goes between the United States and other countries, the United States naval ship, the USS Vincennes, shot down an Iranian passenger jet, Flight 655. This flight was coming out of Iran, and it was carrying only civilians. The United States military claimed that it identified it incorrectly and thought it was a military jet. However, it was a passenger plane, and civilians died. Everyone on board perished. As far as national politics, in 1988, George H.W. Bush won the election, stopped the strong Republican leadership that was present in 1988. It was a stark contrast to the Democratic president we have today. George Bush won Michigan, making it a Republican state as far as electoral college goes in 1988. In 2012, Obama won Michigan, so Michigan has been known to flip-flop between Republican and Democratic tendencies. As far as the weather goes in 1988, it was one for the record books. A heat wave occurred in 1988, pretty much affecting the entire country. A record high temperature of 104 degrees was set for Detroit, and there was also a drought that accompanied these high temperatures. Nationwide, crops suffered, and farmers really suffered. 45% of corn production in Iowa was lost. I found this an interesting fact because a lot of my relatives came from Iowa. Besides the heat wave affecting farmers and crops nationwide, our national parks also suffered. What was known as Black Saturday occurred in Yellowstone Park in 1988. Fires burned throughout Yellowstone in 1988. This was not out of the norm for fires to occur in Yellowstone, but the number and intensity of the fires that occurred in 1988 during the summer was unusual. The finale of this fire occurred on August 20th, 1988. On this day, 165,000 acres burned in a single day. This was beyond anything that the Park Service or the fire suppression teams had seen in the past. Drought conditions contributed to this massive fire. It was the driest summer on record. On August 20th, 1988, there were several small fires burning throughout the park, and gale force winds arrived early in the morning, and they stayed throughout the day. Winds were up to 70 miles per hour sustained force, and this helped push the fire throughout the park and cause those 165,000 acres to burn so rapidly. It was and still is one of the most intense fires in history. So those are just some of the events that occurred in 1988 and what makes it an interesting year in American history.